Guys, right away we have the info about outstanding operation, which Ukrainian army prepared for a very long time. Well, there was the successful landing operation of Ukrainian armed forces, special forces, in one of the spits in the Black Sea. It was coordinated by military intelligence. Yeah, Tendryska Kasa, it's Tendryski Spit. Later on I'm gonna show you on the maps. But here we have the evidence from surveillance drones, and this is a Ukrainian boat on landing. Our guys are there, and they put maybe even the Ukrainian flag, recorded the video. Yeah, this operation done successfully. Maybe they even KA some of the Russian coast guards there. So it happened here. This is the Tendryski Spit, kind of the big one, and Ukraine landed in this place somewhere. Before, Ukraine tried to land in Kimberskaya Kosa, Kimbersky Spit, but it was not successful. Here, at least our guys are alive. The idea of those landing operations is to disturb Russians far behind the front lines in complicated regions, complicated terrain with lots of the water. Maybe for Russia to use more of the resources, not on the front lines, but in this region. But Kimbersky Spit is very important for Ukraine. If Ukraine gains control over this part, it would be awesome for Mykolaiv port especially, because in this case Ukraine would use Mykolaiv port for the trades, and Ukraine is actually also capable to produce ships, but the factories and everything for this stuff is located in Mykolaiv, so even if you produce the ship, you cannot put it out if Russia controls Kimbersky Spit. Right, and here's one more video from the Ukrainian military intelligence, GUR, and how they land on the gas platforms in the Black Sea. They definitely went there, Tavrida Sevastopol platform, and there you may see Russian military aviation is flying, maybe Sukhoi Su-30. Well, our guys had some of the manpad, they launched it, but it seems like it missed the airplane this time, and after it they went back. Okay, nice. Why is it important to land there? Because Russia also sometimes present on those platforms, and they install radars, jammers, and put other equipment. Yeah, in the best case scenario, I think it's better to get rid of those platforms. However, Ukraine might use those in its favor. Zelensky also mentioned Budanov and Ukrainian military intelligence. He said that they perform several of the successful operations already, and more to come. So Zelensky encouraged with more events. Could be kind of interesting. But targeting airports, it would be already kind of hard. Like, for example, Spiderweb 2.0, it would be very difficult to execute in real life. And Russia is building the hangars for their at least fighter jets. Those are the small. You cannot fit Tupolev 95 or Tupolev 160. But still, Russia is learning on its own mistakes, and they build hangars, mostly in the airfields which are close to Ukraine. The major earthquakes are happening in the far east side of Russia, Kamchatka. By the time I'm recording this video, one more huge shock was registered, and it's not far away from the Russian military submarine base. So here's the new epicenter, and you may see that it's very short distance. This morning the earthquake was really strong, 8.2 magnitude, which led to tsunami wave, and I would say that the Russian base is kind of vulnerable to this stuff. Here's the base, it's called Rybachi submarine base, and it's the main one for the Russian nuclear submarines. Here what is happening now, like it's the second earthquake registered, maybe already the third one, so something is moving underground, those plates, one against the other. The shocks are pretty much, yeah, you may see, even the cars are dancing. This happened this morning. You can see the tsunami wave. It destroyed several of the buildings, but there were no reports about the life losses of civilians. And if it is like that, I think that tsunami also went to the Russian submarine base. A very strange thing that Russian officials hesitate to report any sort of the news about the submarine base. No good news and no bad news. At least the governor of the oblast or some of the military official, general or admiral could have said something like, okay, our base is okay, tsunami went there, but we secured everything, submarines went down underwater or something like that. Like this usual official stuff whatsoever, but Russians are very calm about their base, which is the main one again for Russian Navy. So is there the chance for the Russian military base to suffer? I would say yes, because it is very close to the epicenter of the earthquake and it's on the shore, very vulnerable to tsunami waves. But for now it's hard to tell despite the other devastation in the area. You see, it's partially flooded, the shoreline. But after all, tsunami could have been bigger, judging on the magnitude of the earthquake. It was really powerful. 8.2 is huge. And this is the studio of the local radio station in Kamchatka, and let's see how the earthquake happened by the time they were on air.
Марина, тихо.
Марина, спокойно, все хорошо, все хорошо. Дорогие друзья, напомню, что у нас...
Everything is okay, everything is okay, and I see they are quite concerned.
Живем мы на Камчатке.
We're living in Kamchatka. Like, yeah, the earthquakes sometimes happen there. And now it's going really hard. They start to run. Oh yeah, it was really shaking. Really, it was a big earthquake. Once in Indonesia I felt like almost 6 magnitude, but yeah, it was strong. I cannot imagine 8.2. And probably because of the earthquake, the tallest volcano in Euro-Asian continent started to erupt. The name of the volcano is Kluchevskaya Sopka. The evacuation have been already started from the local villages near it. So even nature is against Russia. Well, the most important thing is the Russian submarine military base. If some damages happen there, Russians might try to hide it, but after all, we're gonna see it in the coming days. Because intelligence is everywhere, also informational leaks, they will be in internet. And this is the earthquake in a local Russian hospital, the surgery room. You may see that doctors, they didn't run away. They just secured the patient and themselves probably. Wow. It wasn't like too shaky in their hospital. Maybe it was a little further away from the epicenter. Just a little shaky. But still it wasn't, they didn't run. There is also tsunami alert in Hawaii. It's far away from Kamchatka, but still, you know, this wave, it keeps the energy. However, after all, I understood that the wave wasn't that significant. It's very sad that some of the whales in the region, they landed on the shore and basically kaputted themselves. It happened because of the earthquake. Well, Trump would say that it's because of the windmills. I think it happened in Japan and also in Russia. Yes, immediately let's go to political news because they are very important for Ukraine. Donald Trump is now pushing India, threatening with the new tariffs. Trump is angry because India bought lots of the military equipment from Russia and they are Russia's largest buyer of energy. Yeah, it's like that. India is exporting lots of the oil from Russia and not only, other fossil fuels and metals too. Yeah, China is the bigger buyer, but India also purchases a lot. At the time that everyone wants Russia to stop the killing in Ukraine, all things not good, India will therefore be paying a tariff of 25%, plus penalty for above starting on August 1st. It's kind of interesting that Donny decided to play this kind of the tariff game once again and he put Ukraine and Russia for this topic. More and more I see how Donny is changing his mind. Or maybe he just understood that supporting Ukraine brings him some of the plus points because just recently there were multiple of the other scandals which cancelled popularity of Donald Trump even among MAGA. Well, not cancelled completely, but many people, Republicans, they now think that Donny is not that sincere as he promised during the election campaign, and that he probably was lying about the Epstein files. So here is just like a political way out for Donald Trump to gain some of the points. And today Donny again mentioned that he gives Russia just a limited time, this time 10 days, for agreement with Ukraine about ceasefire. And if Russia continues, Donny may apply new sanctions and new tariffs on Russia, plus secondary tariffs on companies who continue to trade with Russia, maybe even on countries, not just companies. So this time I think Donny is kind of serious. But he says that maybe those tariffs will not force Russia to ceasefire and the war continues. Yeah, it will be like that. Russia will still continue to fight in Ukraine no matter what. Still, their economy will let them to do it for some years. and we expect the long-term war. I expect that this war will surpass the Donald Trump's presidency. I'm almost sure about it. Because we see the signals from Russian elite. Peskov, Lavrov, Putin himself, they all say that Russia is willing to reach the goals of the special military operation, and they will reach those no matter what. Like, they don't want to negotiate with the USA, Europe. No, they're full in military action. Well, they would like Ukraine to surrender without any sort of the war, but obviously Ukraine is not going to do it. That's why the military support of Ukraine is also very important. So maybe I just hope that if Donny would see that sanctions and tariffs are not working well, he might increase the military support of Ukraine. Direct military help, not via European countries with those kind of the schemes. No, like it was with Biden, and I'm sure that Congress will support it. Yeah, Trump says that we have a massive trade deficit with India, and India is kind of dependent on the United States of America, very dependent, I would say. So maybe Donny has the option of how to press India really hard for India not to continue to purchase Russian fossil fuels or limit those at the low level. Well, the energy minister of India already mentioned that if United States apply those crazy tariffs on Russia, India will not buy Russian oil. I hope it will be like that. It will not stop the war right away, but little by little, all of those measures like sanctions, military support of Ukrainian army, applying extra tariffs on those countries who are willing to purchase Russian oil, everything of that is pushing Russia close to the edge, or Russian economy, it's better to say. I would say that the current situation in Russia is very similar to the Soviet Union, like the 10 last years of the Soviet Union. Then it started to lose significantly its influence, and we see how Russia is losing it as well. In Syria, lost completely. In Caucasus, many of the countries, including Armenia, are not okay with the Russian regime. Azerbaijan, yes. Obviously, Central Asian countries, they're also looking more towards China than towards Russia now. In Soviet Union, there was the war in Afghanistan. Soviet Union was also under the sanctions. Now it's a big war in Ukraine. So Putin is following the footsteps of Gorbachev, which might bring Russia to the destiny which Soviet Union had. So basically, Russia might collapse into different regions or sovereign states, republics. Because they already have autonomous republics, Yakutia, Tatarstan, Buryatia, Chechnya, Ingushetia, Dagestan, everything of that could be split. And you know, guys, I'm sure that we're gonna witness those events during our lifetime. This will happen soon, within 10 years, I expect. Here I will expedite a little this video for you. A very interesting message from Scott Bessent, the Treasury Minister, or how to call this rank in the United States. Well, guy responsible for finances.
What was your message to the Chinese about Russian oil? Did you tell them that they're on notice, they need to start to pull back?
Well, we described, it's not just the president, what is making its way through the U.S. Senate, and hard to imagine anything could get 80 or 90 bipartisan votes in the U.S. Senate, is a bill that will give the president discretion to apply secondary tariffs on sanctioned Russian oil from, I believe it's from 0 to 500%. I believe he's used 100%. And we've heard from several of our European counterparts, NATO allies, even Canada, well, Canada is in NATO, that they will be following on that. So we would expect most of the Western alliance that has been supporting Ukraine to follow on that. So I think anyone who buys sanctioned Russian oil should be ready for this.
What was their response to that warning?
The Chinese take their sovereignty very seriously. We don't want to impede on their sovereignty, so they'd like to pay 100% tariff.
Well, in the initial project of the law, which was introduced by Lindsey Graham, they told about 500% of the tariffs. Now Donny reduced those down to 100, but 100 is still a lot. And it's just one more lever, to play with China in this tariff war. I don't think that really Trump is looking like to press Russia really hard. I think he doesn't really care. He wants to reach his own goals. And just as a reference, the Ukrainian topic fits here perfectly. It boosts the reputation of Donald Trump because many of the influencers, including me, start to speak about Donny not in the context that he's idiot narcissist, that he really is, but let the guy turn the side, okay? let him face the real things. And it seems like Donny started to understand lots of the stuff he was not aware about before. Well, how I should even comment this, guys? Those news appeared on the Fox News, so Patel found thousands of sensitive Trump-Russia probe docs inside burn bags in secret room at FBI. What are those burn bags? Were those documents already burned? I think no, and they were found in a secret room at... Like, we have more questions than answers. The thing is what they want to tell with the news. They do not specify, actually. They don't have any sort of the major details. Was Trump really connected with Russia, or this case just erupted with those bags to show that Democrats try to hide some of the evidence of how they try to blackmail Donald Trump with those fake Trump-Russia connections? I think the second variant, but we'll see. So far, it's like this informational bomb dropped by Kash Patel. I wish they would drop Epstein files with the same eager. Yes, this morning I told you about the Russian strike on one of the training grounds in Ukraine, in Chernihiv Oblast. Well, again, it sparked the resonance in Ukrainian society. Syrsky, general commander of Ukraine, had to react on that. He said that everything should be moved underground. Should not be moved underground, because that is how you will not train your soldiers. Just move them away from the borders with Russia, because Chernihiv is very close to Russia, like 50 kilometers away. This facility was roughly from the border. Train soldiers in the western side of Ukraine, where Russia is unable to send their surveillance drones and Iskanders, and later on just move soldiers closer or deploy them to the eastern side of Ukraine. I do not see any sort of the reason for our guys to be trained in Chernihiv, for example, because it brings losses. Right, one more hint that this war might continue for years and years, that Europe plans long-term borrowing to support Ukrainian economy and Ukrainian military. We're speaking about dozens of billions of euros, which our allies actually forced to invest in Ukraine, because Ukraine plays the role of the shield against Russia. Russia is busy in Ukraine, so our partners should support Ukraine. Otherwise, Russia might attack their land. So they have the long-term plan, the project till 2034. So for the long 9 years ahead. And they are speaking about at least $100 billion as initial number, but it will be bigger, way bigger for those years, guys, because Ukraine needs every year at least like from 50 up to $100 billion to maintain the economy, to maintain its army. Well, partially Ukraine itself is getting those money by selling grains and other stuff, but yeah, obviously Ukrainian economy is not that big compared to what it was before 2022. So thank you again, our partners from the entire world, from European Union, from the United States of America, from Canada, from Japan, from Korea, from everywhere. Thank you so much for supporting Ukraine. You are awesome. Yeah, as always, we would like to have more support, but what we have is good. However, there is a close call now with this legislation introduced, the new law against the National Anti-Corruption Bureau and Independent Anti-Corruption Prosecution Office. Our partners from Europe say that they will not support Ukraine if this law stays for some time. So Ukraine will not obtain those funds or any sort of the funds. That's why Zelensky should change and roll back everything he did the last week. Guys, roughly 2 days ago, I recorded a video about the foreign mercenaries who go to Ukraine to fight for Ukrainian army against Russia and earn some money doing so. Well, we have new information coming from Ukrainian intelligence that some of the cartel members are also going to Ukraine. Well, first of all, not for money, but to obtain the experience flying and operate the drones. They want to find out how the system itself works, how to organize those battalions, drone battalions properly, and later on they might use this experience in their own conflicts between them and government, probably. Yeah, unfortunately, guys, it might happen. For Ukraine, it would be better to just keep nuclear weapons and no one would fly those drones. But yeah, unfortunately, this war improved the drone technologies quite a lot, and Ukraine takes mercenaries, and sometimes the background check is not enough to identify the particular individuals who could be hired by Mexican or Colombian cartels. Ukraine has already started investigation together with Mexican authorities to find out particular individuals and to prove their connection with cartels. Oh boy, should I finish this video like that? Just for fun, you know. This video was filmed by the Russian soldier. He shows the new flashlight which was given to him, or maybe he bought this one. Well, he says it's the best flashlight he has ever had. Let's watch.
Фонарик, который светится в основном красным, да, и при этом издает звук.
Oh, okay, the flashlight. He also says that there is the special sound and vibrations. I wonder why. Why should you carry the flashlight which vibrates? Yeah, I would say this flashlight is must-have for every Russian soldier. They should use it all the time. And I would tell you more. There is the option to use this flashlight without any hands. How to do it? You may ask this guy. My friends, again, I ask you to check out my latest videos. For example, update from the front lines. I also put some of the images from the drones to show you more details, deep analysis, better than I do usually. That's why I divide topics, news and front lines updates, because we have lots of the things happening on the front lines. Good things, bad things. I usually start from the good things and later on to bad. So please check out the video which I posted roughly 11 hours ago. So I'm gonna film 2 videos per day, news updates and front lines updates at least. If there is the major topic, I'm gonna film 1 more video. If 2 major topics, 2 big videos, and plus front lines, plus news. So yeah, I'm all in with my job. I thank you guys for hiring me for it through Patreon especially, because this channel has some of the issues with monetization. So thank you so much for clicking Patreon link in the video description below and joining me. If you don't have the opportunity to support me on Patreon, press your like to this video, and by doing so, you help me a lot. Well guys, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.